Good morning. Welcome to the frozen north, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Cleveland. My name is John Bacon, and I'm a worship associate of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Cleveland. Try saying that 5 times quickly. I'm a Buddhist, Christian, Stoic UU. It might be entertaining to put that into a Venn diagram sometime. This house is made up of people with diverse belief structures. We have people with Jewish, Christian, pagan, Buddhist, humanist, and many other heritages. We have deists, theists, agnostics, atheists, and people who can't easily be classified. Like myself, many of us have beliefs extracted from diverse spiritual sources. In this house, we have people from most of the LGBTQ and yes, S spectrum. We gather here for a multitude of reasons: to find community, to seek spiritual and personal truths, to question, to nurture heart and soul, to be nurtured, to explore new ideas, to find comfort, and perhaps to find answers to some of our more significant questions. You are welcome here, no matter who you are, where you come from, or whom you love. We especially welcome guests today who are worshiping with us for the first time, either with us physically or watching us online. If you want more information on who we are, we invite you to fill out one of the pew cards with this handy-dandy QR code on the back to fill out and put in the plate as the offering is taken. We'll reach out to you and answer any questions you have about our congregation. You can visit our website, uucleveland.org, as well, and email us if you're watching us from an internet platform. We're about to enter sacred space, so please turn off all the digital noise makers, including the watches, right? And any other thing that tends to make noise. Thank you. Today, our chalice lighting is going to be performed by Don Stimpert. Don is a long-time member of the congregation, as well as the finance chair and a board member on multiple occasions. And if you will join with me, if I only have it, reading our covenant, please, on the yellow card in front of you. We cultivate trust with one another by celebrating differences, honoring boundaries, and offering compassion and care. We listen to each other deeply with curiosity and wonder. We speak for ourselves without need to defend ourselves or persuade each other. We create safe and brave space for healthy conflict, creativity, and fun. We reconcile through forgiving and making amends when we hurt one another.
Thank you, Don. We'll talk about the Chalica candles that we lit in just a moment. But first, I'm Reverend Randy Partain. My pronouns are they, them, and I am delighted to be with you in worship today, whether you're joining us in person or participating online. I want to share with you a little bit longer call to worship than usual because this poem by Uriah Mountain Dreamer, I think, captures a lot of what we hope to mean when we say welcome to one another on Sunday morning. This is the invitation. It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for, and if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dream, for the adventure of being alive. It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you have touched the center of your own sorrow, if you have been opened by life's betrayals, or have become shriveled and closed from fear of further pain. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without moving to hide it or fade it or fix it. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or yours. If you can dance with wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes, without cautioning us to be careful, be realistic, remember the limitations of being human. It doesn't interest me if the story you're telling is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself. If you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul. I want to know if you can see beauty even when it isn't pretty every day, and if you can source your own life from its presence. I want to know if you can live with failure, yours and mine, and still stand on the edge of the lake and shout to the silver of the full moon, yes! It doesn't interest me to know where you live or how much money you have. I want to know if you can get up after the night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done to feed the children. It doesn't interest me who you know or how you came to be here. I want to know if you will stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't interest me where or what or with whom you have studied. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else falls away. I want to know if you can be alone with yourself and if you truly like the company you keep in the empty moments. So in that spirit of welcome, may we enter into worship together, and we're going to welcome one another. In just a minute, we're going to sing hymn number 22 in the great hymnal, Dear Weaver of Our Life's Design. But before we do that, please do welcome those around you, and if you see someone you don't recognize, please make a special effort to let them know they're welcome today. John, did you want to talk about the Chalice candles, or do you want me to do that? You'd like me to do that? Do you have the words over there? Do you have the words for the Chalice candle over there? We're going to tell you about justice in a second. First, we'll do something else. Every week we bring a lot of things into this space with us, and some of them are joyful things, and some of them are burdens that we carry on our hearts, things that we might be concerned about. If you're joining us online, then I invite you to put any joys or concerns you have for the congregation to know about in the chat. If you're here in person, you're always welcome to put anything you want to share with the congregation in the Joys and Concerns book. I do want to put a stone of gratitude for the leaders that gathered yesterday. We had a really great opportunity to gather with a lot of ministry team leads and committee chairs and talk about collaboration and understanding what we need from one another with our calendar. And it seems like a really simple thing, but it was a really wonderful connecting time with about, almost 20 or so people. So thank you to everyone that was participating in that. And we are also placing a stone of celebration. We are celebrating the joy of Dennis Grossman's 75th birthday this month. So happy birthday, Dennis. And I invite you to come forward and place a stone in the water for anything else that you might be carrying with you today. I'll just personally place a stone of gratitude for the reminder that clarity is not always present even when we think it is, and that collaboration will let it all work out fine. Thank you for my collaborators. Just a note of thanks. One of these stones means gratitude for this blessed family. I'll place a stone to represent any of those joys or concerns shared online today. And just a reminder that each of these stones is not particularly heavy, but they can feel heavy when we're carrying them by ourselves. So hopefully you will ask one another what these stones mean when you see each other at coffee hour or later on this week, so that we can share them together. And in doing that, we hope that our burdens are lessened and that our joys are magnified. Amen. And now the moment you've all been waiting for. What do our Chalice candles mean today, Jenny?
Good morning. My name is Jenny Papp. I'm the Director of Lifespan Faith Development in this congregation, and my pronouns are she and they. During these kind of gray months of winter, when we all might prefer a little more light and are thankful when we do get the sun to peek through, we have a tradition of having an extended Chalice observance. We light candles each week to recognize that the light that our values and principles shed on us and on the world. We encourage you to spend a little time with this spiritual practice in your home as well. The center candle is pink for love, and we begin our lighting with that each week. In the past 2 weeks, we've lit the blue candle for pluralism and the purple for transformation. And on this third Sunday of Chalice, we are reminded of our shared value of justice, that justice inspires us to work toward being a diverse, multicultural, beloved community where we may all thrive. May the light of our Chalice candle remind us of our commitment to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression, and our commitment to inclusive, democratic processes within our congregations, our association, and society at large. These promises echo that eighth principle that the congregation affirmed a few years ago, as well as our historic commitment to democracy. Here. So we have a story this morning that I would like to share with you. And we've lifted up that shared value of justice. And one of the ways that we do that is to become welcoming in all that we do. And to be truly welcoming. Can you all hear me? Okay, yes, I'm sorry. To be truly welcoming, we are asked to do a lot more than just putting out a welcome sign. We have to actively do things that make sure all people feel welcomed and comfortable, and that can be challenging because we all need different things to be comfortable. So the story I have is adopted from a Middle Eastern Islamic folktale. It's attributed to different countries, including Turkey and Syria, so we'll go there. And our main character is named Mullah Nasruddin. It takes place during the month of Ramadan. And during the month of the Ramadan, that's a holy time for Muslims when they don't eat between sunup and sundown or drink anything. And when the sun comes down, they break that process of what they call a fast. They break that by having a large meal at the end of the day, and they often share that with their friends and their family. So Mullah Nasruddin was in the month of Ramadan, had been working very hard in the fields all day. Mullah Nasruddin was tired and sweaty and dirty, covered in mud, and he had been fasting all day, of course. He's also quite hungry. But it was almost sundown, And he knew that he was going to be able to eat pretty soon. The wealthiest man in town had invited everyone to come to break their fast at a big party at his house that night. And he knew he would be late. Nasruddin knew he would be late if he went home and changed clothes. And he thought it would be better to show up a little dirty than to be late. To be late was a little more rude. Oh, and what a party. So as he walked there, he imagined all the delicious foods that would be happening. I want you to think of your favorite foods. Nasruddin was thinking about dates and lentils and chickpeas and some olives and fresh bread, maybe some hummus and some falafel, chicken, beef, and oh, the desserts, the desserts, the desserts. When Nasruddin arrived, the wealthy man opened his door and looked down very scornfully upon Nasruddin and just stepped away and didn't even say hello and pointed into the house. So I kind of wonder what that man was thinking. Maybe you can come up with some things, but I wonder what that man was thinking or feeling. So Nasruddin joined all of the people that were there, and they were all dressed in their very finest clothing for this party. The tables had all sorts of those delicious foods that he had been imagining, and even better. Oh, so much. Date rolls, figs, baklava. Yeah. Despite his efforts to hurry, all of the seats were already taken. Nobody tried to move over and make room for Nasruddin. Nobody offered him any food, in fact. And he had to reach over and around people to try and get any food for his plate. Nobody spoke with him. It was like he wasn't even here or there. Wonder how Nasruddin was feeling. The other guests ignored him so completely that he actually couldn't even enjoy this delightful food on his plate, no matter how wonderful he had thought it would be when he got there. And he was really super uncomfortable and decided to leave. So he hurried home, and he changed into his finest clothing, got rid of those dirty clothes, finest clothing, put on his most beautiful, finest jacket. Maybe. And as he returned to the feast, he knocked on the door again, and the wealthy host opened the door and saw Nasruddin and said, "Welcome, welcome, come in, please join us. I'm sure you must be hungry." He pointed Nasruddin to the table. People kind of scooted and made room. Someone who had finished offered their seat. And he sat down very quietly, and he looked, and he picked up a very plump fig, and he stuck it in his pocket. And he said, "Eat, coat, eat." Then he took some nuts, and he stuck those into the other pocket, and he said, "Eat, coat, eat." Now, he began very earnestly to feed his coat. Now, at this point, okay, we can imagine there is some amazing food he's been waiting for all day. And he's grabbing food, and he's stuffing it in his pockets, and the whole time he's saying, "Eat, coat, eat." The coat had lentils and chickpeas and dessert, that amazing baklava. And the people became silent as they watched Nasruddin's strange behavior as he stuffed his pocket. They kind of wondered what he was doing. So they asked him, "Nasruddin, what are you doing? Why are you stuffing your coat? Why are you feeding your coat in this manner?" "Well, when I first came to this feat in my old farming clothes, dirty from a long day's work, no one would speak to me. I wasn't welcome. So I left. And when I changed into this fine coat, suddenly I was greeted warmly. I realized that I was not welcome at this party, but my coat was most welcome. So I'm feeding my coat. We try to be a community, we aspire to be a community that welcomes all persons who share our values. We embrace our differences and our commonalities, and this is part of our practice of justice. And sometimes we're challenged by the shape of someone's coat. And so we just keep trying to live into our aspirations. And I welcome you to continue and try and think about that this week as you go through your activities. And thank you for sharing this story with me. Am I done?
Today, our offering goes to the LBGT Legacy Project. Val DeLewis has been part of this movement since the early 80s, capturing hundreds of hours of video history about the events, the people, and interviews of the people who have been participating in this since the start of the new version of this movement, so to speak. And in that, she's captured the impact of AIDS on the community, as well as the impact of all the other events that have occurred during that time leading up to today. You can view the starting documentary online at her website, lbgtlegacyproject.org. I visited Val DeLewis's studio while she and her recent film graduate assistant were working on the AIDS and the Culture Wars documentary. She's found ways to capture and digitize terabytes of data and retain her assistant. She needs help in continuing to finance the project with the ever-hungry need for data, digital storage, and to pay for her young assistant. Having done similar work, but much less ambitious, I understand the need for this only too well. This supports our values of justice and pluralism, capturing the history of those, so those coming of age now will benefit from the insight. Please place your offering, cash or check, made payable to UUCC in the collection plate as it comes around to you. You may also contribute via Cash App to UUCC 44122. Please use the memo line to indicate today's date and the plate recipient, LBGT Legacy Project. Please give generously within your means. Allowables by Nikki Giovanni. I killed a spider, not a murderous brown recluse, nor even a black widow. And if the truth were told, this was only a small, sort of papery spider who should have run when I picked up the book. But she didn't, and she scared me, and I smashed her. I don't think I'm allowed to kill something because I am frightened.
Some people have been asking, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We feel pretty threatened by what we imagine might be waiting for us over the next little while. The short-term future seems pretty scary, and so we say, what are we going to do? And I don't know that it's any different than what we have been doing. I mean, it's really easy to make demands of how the world ought to be. That's an easy thing. But the harder work that we've always been called to do is to reach the world around us, the places where we touch, the places where we are in relationship, in a way that embodies our values. That's not changing. So I appreciate the mentioning of us being welcoming. What does it look like for us to be welcoming? That's a lot of hard work. And so we might have to prepare ourselves for everything that might go into the claims that we make about who we are. And so we prepare our hearts in this place. We prepare our minds in order to live into our values in the places that we touch, in the places where we are in relationship, in the hopes that that changes the world around us. Hopefully, it's going to be more helpful than just making demands of the world around us. But I think Nikki Giovanni invites us to ask, who are our spiders? Not who have we killed, although for some people, physical violence is a reaction to fear, and we might pride ourselves in being above that. And yet, many of us have more subtle ways of harming things when we're afraid. We often harm people and things that we don't really need to be afraid of. I killed a spider. I hurt someone. I said a mean thing. I yelled terrifying words at an alarming volume. I sent a really harsh text. I destroyed someone's reputation, or at least sullied it a little bit. I cut off connection. I refused someone a place of belonging. I killed a spider, right? Not a murderous brown recluse, nor even a black widow. And if the truth were told, this was only a small, sort of papery spider. Not a dangerous person, not a violent person, not a person who could really hurt me in any way that I couldn't handle. But in my mind, I turned them into something terrible. I told a story about the threat that they posed that made them seem terrifying. I made them into a villain. I made them into something that my values didn't touch or didn't apply to. And at the same time, I told a story about myself. that I was at risk, that I was vulnerable, that I wasn't safe. Maybe that I was weak or incapable or a victim, that I needed to defend and protect something that I care about from this little papery spider. And if the truth were told, this was only a small sort of papery spider who should have run when I picked up the book, but she didn't. And even in my remorse, I want to blame the other person. They should have known not to terrify me that way. They should have run. They should have gotten out of my way. They shouldn't have made me feel scared. Except that they didn't really make me feel anything. My stories about them made me feel a lot of things, probably. But they couldn't know that they were evoking feelings of overwhelming fear just by being, or even doing something that came naturally for them to do. This was only a small, sort of papery spider who should have run when I picked up the book, but she didn't. And she scared me, and I smashed her. I smashed her. So far, we're just explaining things, right? We're just telling what happened. We don't even realize that Nikki Giovanni is confessing at this point, that this is a story of remorse. And this is where a lot of us end our stories. I hurt somebody, but, maybe they didn't deserve it, but they scared me, and so I smashed them. That's what happened. It'll probably happen again. Sometimes you just have to smash people, or punish them, or get control of them, or put them in their place. That's just the way it is. Can't be avoided. And if I repeat that story enough, it'll even seem normal and acceptable. Sometimes you just have to smash people. Except Nikki Giovanni doesn't stop the story there. She draws a conclusion about it. There's a connection to deeper values that mean more than impulsive reactions. I don't think I'm allowed to kill something because I am frightened. Isn't allowed an interesting word there? Allowed by whom? Nobody is standing over my shoulder telling me I can't kill a spider. If I tell a story about how I said what needed to be said, even if someone couldn't handle me being honest, there are a lot of folks who would say, "Good for you, Randy. You have to set boundaries because we love to weaponize healthy things when it justifies problematic behavior." You have to set boundaries. Nobody, no outside authority, was passing judgment on Nikki Giovanni for killing a spider. Her own internal wisdom was waving a red flag. Her own life-affirming values were ringing alarm bells. Whoa, that's not who I say I am. I just killed a living being out of my own inability to accept its existence, to accept her existence. That doesn't reflect what I want to be about. And in the same way, our own internal wisdom, maybe you might call it a conscience, lets us know when we've caused harm. Sometimes we get so good at justifying it because we feel so scared about whatever it is that other person was doing. We get so good at justifying it that we drown out our internal wisdom with excuses and explanations. This is why it was okay. This is why I did it. So you understand. I had to do this. And then we end the story before we get to the part about remorse and confession. And I don't know if I'm allowed to do that. But our stories of harm, whether we're talking about an individual or about our participation in systemic injustices, our stories of harm that we've caused are really stories of self-betrayal. The real story is, I know what I value, and my actions did not reflect that. We don't want to tell that story, though. That's a scary story. That's even scarier than whatever made us react the way that we did, because we often don't know what to do with it. I was out of alignment with my life-affirming values. I acted in a way that didn't reflect who I really want to be in the world, and so now what? And if we can't answer that, we're afraid to even tell that part of the story. And we've talked about self-betrayal before. Self-betrayal is that thing where we tell ourselves a story about ourselves, that we're a good friend, or that we're a good student, or that we're a good whatever, and then something happens in life that seems to conflict with that. One of the examples I used is you tell yourself you're a good partner and a good parent, and then at 2 o'clock in the morning when the baby is crying, you pretend to still be asleep in the hopes that your partner will get up and deal with the baby because you really don't want to. But is that what a good partner and a good parent would do? And how do you reconcile that? What do you do with that? Our lives reflect something different than the stories that we want to tell about ourselves. And that's one reason it's so hard to talk about dismantling racism and other oppressions, because we tell a story that we are good people. And our definition of good people is kind of extreme and absolute. It doesn't allow room for us to do something that might cause harm. So we often get defensive and we say, you cannot mean me. I'm a good person. I don't do stuff like that. I don't participate in things like that. I'm a good person. But then how did that dead spider get there? We don't know what to do about it. If we support something or do something or benefit from something that doesn't align with our definition of being a good person, we don't always know what to do about it. And we think that the only conclusion that we can draw is that we're not really good people. But that's not really true either. One of the purposes of having spiritual practices in our lives is to prepare ourselves for moments of fear or anxiety so that our life-affirming values continue to guide us. They're spiritual practices because we do them on a regular basis, but they're also spiritual practices because we use them to practice. We use them to rehearse how we want to show up. We can allow introspection to be imaginative practice for keeping our deepest values in the driver's seat, even when we get caught off guard or startled by life. We can picture in our mind what it would be like to maintain a sense of integrity to what we really want to embody. That's what our spiritual practices allow us to do. They connect us to our inner wisdom in a way that makes it continue to shine through even when we get a bit off kilter. And sometimes that means we have to tell the story after the fact. We can't bring that spider back. So we can reimagine it and rehearse something different. I killed a spider, and I recognize that's not who I want to be. So what would it be like if I prepare for the next spider? Because chances are that is not the only harmless, papery little spider that I'm going to come across in my life. Our life-affirming values only guide us if we spend time with them, reflecting on what they mean to us in different challenging experiences where we may be tempted to react on impulse. And if we're willing to tell the whole story, even the uncomfortable parts, then we can prepare ourselves for different stories. If I only tell the story where I kill spiders that startle me, then that's how I define myself. I'm the person who kills harmless little spiders. And maybe I tell that story so defensively that not even my internal wisdom has a chance of challenging whether that's something to really be proud of. I just say, ha, I killed that spider. Did you see how I killed that spider? I killed it good. It startled me and I killed it. And I'm going to keep being the person who kills harmless little spiders. And if I celebrate it, it doesn't seem so wrong. And we do that sometimes. But if I tell a different story, Maybe if I tell a story that I value all life as part of an interdependent web of existence. And if I tell that story as a habitual practice, dare I say religiously, if I tell that story religiously, then that story of valuing all life as part of an interdependent web of existence becomes a reminder for how I behave when a spider startles me. Our values, our commitment to be people who embody liberating love, tell a story about who we want to be. They set the boundaries of what we want to allow of ourselves, but only if we accept them as our internal guidance system. If there's some external framework, they're really not part of our story. But if we connect with our internal wisdom and say, what am I going to allow from myself within the boundaries of my life-affirming values, whatever those happen to be, then we'll start to tell a different story more consistently. And I go from being a person who kills little harmless spiders to being a person who isn't so scared of little harmless spiders. And maybe being a person who values little harmless spiders. And maybe even a person who refuses to hurt little harmless spiders. And you know we're not talking about spiders, right? We were never talking about spiders. Amen, and blessed be. I invite us to sing a song to remind us, hymn number 317, We Are Not Our Own. I invite us to rise in body or spirit as we sing together. I just want to let you know about a couple of things. If you are considering membership, you know we've got a gathering coming up January 25th, Saturday, at 10 o'clock for people who are considering membership to learn a little more about Unitarian Universalism and specifically this congregation and how things work here and what membership means. There is a little pink card on the table as you leave toward the parking lot, and there's a QR code on that little pink card, and you can register and let us know that you're going to be here so that we make sure that we have all of the abundant snacks and refreshments that we want for people that are going to come. And today, in room 108, the pretrial support ministry has a training with lunch. This is the first of 4 trainings. Lunch is free, no commitment, so if you're particularly hungry, go get trained in pretrial support. But also, this is an amazing ministry that has been just growing and engaging a lot of people in our congregation. We are the only church in the U.S., as far as we can tell, that is doing this kind of work. And so it's innovative, and it's really important work. So I hope that you learn more about it from the people who are involved or from the training today in room 108. May we tell the full stories of how we live into our values. And may we celebrate the places where we do so impeccably. And may we gently and compassionately name those places where we need to clarify what we allow of ourselves so that we might nurture greater wholeness and well-being in our lives and in the world around us. Amen, and blessed be.
Please join me in the words for extinguishing the chalice on the flip side of the yellow card. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.